Hey folks, Coach Patrick here from Endurance Nation, back with another weekly podcast, video cast. This week I'm talking to you about the value of fall volume, how we roll fall volume here inside Endurance Nation with our new for this year anti-vanilla approach. We want you to do cool stuff with your fitness. We've said it for years inside the team. What that really means is making sure that when you do a lot of hard work and you race and you prepare, everything is good. Well, where else do we put that fitness, right? If you're in shape enough, why not do something a little different, a little bit more off the beaten path? The fall is an excellent opportunity to do that. Now, of course, some of you are racing world championships or have fall events like fall marathons, so this doesn't fit for everyone. But we do want to bring the light here on the opportunity that athletes have to break outside the ordinary and make sure that their fitness lifestyle becomes a life that they want to lead as well. Less like a job, more like a lifestyle. One of the challenges when we talk about the system of endurance training and why it's broken is that the majority of coaches approach training as a full-time job. All right. So we make food decisions all the time. We make training decisions every single day or multiple times a day. We're constantly tracking ourselves, and all of that's guiding our behavior. Um, every single change that we make by adding more technology or more attention to what we're doing, it actually reduces our ability to sort of explore beyond the normal bounds to have fun. And our job here is to make sure that you get the opportunity to not only be your best when you want to race and do all the work accordingly and more effectively, but at the same time have room inside your life to have fun. Because at the end of the day, if it's not fun, why do it? This picture here behind me, one of my gravel bike rides from this year, got myself a new Cannondale Super 6 Evo, and had a chance to get outside and do it as much as I can. Certainly not a race specific behavior for me, not preparing me for any triathlon anytime soon, but dang, if I don't have like 4 or 5 hours of fun out there just adventuring and finding new stuff and seeing whatever else my bike can possibly roll over the top of, having so much fun, sometimes I even forget to eat and drink, which that's proven to be a problem, especially when you're in the middle of nowhere. But anyway, I digress. So let's talk about fall volume. If you want to learn more about Endurance Nation or anti-vanilla approach, head over to endurancestation.us, where you can learn more, join our waitlist for an opportunity to join us in October when we kick things off with October 31st and our winter training block, which starts with the out season, brand new for 2022 as well. All right. So the fall, no better time for volume than in the fall. And a lot of people don't think about it that way. Instead, they think about, like, what more could I do? I just did this race, so I'm fit. Let me do another race. So people generally go from race to race. Inside Endurance Nation, we want to think about how do we go from volume to volume. The amount of time you can spend training, whether it's fun or not fun, but that total amount of training time in that aerobic space, zone 2 or lower, is an opportunity for you to build the foundation upon which you can actually add speed, and then get to the outcomes that you want to have from a performance perspective, be it for a fastest known time, if it's for a new event, or going back to the similar event, or whatever it may be. But it's all built off of this foundation. Now, inside Endurance Nation, because of the return on investment focus that we don't have a ton of long workouts on the schedule. We're not trying to exhaust you or wear you down or take all your time from your family. But the fall brings a new opportunity. Kids are back in school. Weather is nicer. You have more flexibility in your day, with the exception of daylight hours, which definitely get shorter in the fall. And I'm already super upset about it. I'm sure you are too. Then the mornings when I get up, it's dark outside now. And just a week or two ago, it was sunny and I could get outside and get all my work done and feel good about myself. Now it's a little bit harder to get out of bed because of those conditions. But I digress. So, what types of fall training can you do to be successful despite the conditions and how things have changed to sort of be against you? Here are some options that I think will be helpful for you that we recommend to our athletes that I hope you'll consider as you think about the opportunities you have ahead of you, whether you're racing or not. Number one, the epic hike. Hiking can be legit, especially if you're hiking with intent. But sometimes you even want to do that. Sometimes you just want to go and explore. And if it's an opportunity for you to be outside and be on your feet, but also be with your families or friends, and go do that. But if you can be a little more specific or a little more intentional with it, an adventurous hike, an epic hike, could really replace what would normally constitute a long run. So you can get out there and you can do some work. You can do it at a consistent effort. Don't have to be running to be getting that same effort. In fact, walking can do a better job of activating your glutes and keep you moving sustainably with good posture than a long run where your form breaks down and things get kind of tough over time, right? So the epic hike could be anywhere from 3 hours to 6 hours, depending on your availability and the terrain and the safety concerns around it. But the idea here is that we're on our feet for about 3 hours at a minimum, walking, exploring, climbing, stopping to drink and stopping to snack and all the good stuff, taking pictures. But this block of 3+ hours really challenges you physiologically from the infrastructure standpoint because you are on your feet. From infrastructure standpoint because you are using muscles you don't normally use when you're running. But also logistically from a nutritional standpoint as well. So you still get to work on that excellence even in that regard. So that epic hike, that's certainly one of them. Another option for fall volume, which I've really been taking advantage of myself, I kind of hinted at it earlier with my gravel bike story, is adventure cycling. It's getting off the beaten path, stop, looking at your computer and measuring yourself from like this tree to that tree or this mile to that mile or Strava segments and really pushing yourself. And instead, just enjoy riding your bike, put it in different terrain, which forces you to learn new skills and bike handling elements. Also, checking out new equipment, of course, presuming that you have the opportunity to get a new bike, which not everyone needs to have. You can still have your old bike. But if you can't get off road for the adventure cycling, then make sure you're going in a place where you haven't been before. You can use Strava's heat map function and something like Ride with GPS to go ahead and log a schedule that really works for you. But the idea here is that we're setting ourselves up for success by determining new ways to explore that are outside the normal bounds of training in terms of training for performance. And instead, we're training for endurance, we're training for fun, we're training for adventure. So you can go meet someone and ride with them for a little bit and then ride on beyond that or just ride with them for the time, whatever it may be. You have flexibility with your schedule without that race pushing down on you. And we want to make sure that we're keeping people engaged in that regard. As such, adventure cycling can be a big piece of that, especially if you have the opportunity to get off road, which many athletes do enjoy these days. All right. Next one, exploring the trails. Now, whether this is just another version of hiking or if it is in fact trail running, being out on the trails and running on the trails is a ton of fun. Trails are so different. And regardless of what part of the country you're in, while you may not get massive elevation here on the East Coast, you certainly get your fair share of ups and downs and technical terrain. All of the elements that really force you as an athlete to do a great job of making decisions, of anticipating your next few steps, planning your nutrition, making sure you don't run out of energy or the ability to focus. All of those key pieces are important. And trails allow you to do just that. It increases the difficulty level of the run without having to increase the speed or also increase the distance. Those two, speed and distance, when pushed sliders all to the right as far as you can go, really sets you up for failure in terms of training and preparing for the race because you'll just be so fatigued by the time you get there. As a result, having that exploratory piece becomes really critical in terms of making sure that people stay active, but do so in a way that also continues their overall total health. We don't want to jeopardize anything you have because we're chasing a time or a specific pace. Excuse me. And the last piece here I want to talk about, so I talked about epic hiking, we talked about adventure cycling, we talked about exploring the trails, all pretty amenable, all definitely want to make sure you check the weather just because fall weather can be kind of crazy. But the last piece here is how do you focus for a race? Like, let's just say, okay, Patrick, all that sounds great, but I've got a race in 4 weeks or 5 weeks. What do I do? Fall weather's here. The volume's great, but at the same time, I got this race. What do you recommend I do? I recommend you go inside. You can still have a workout outside that's fun and engaging, etc. But the bulk of your training, if it is cool outside, not really amenable to your race conditions, is that you spend that time inside on the personal trainer, getting the work done, cycling away, doing the watts you want to do, feeling the heat the way that you want to feel it, being able to adjust nutrition, everything, all because you have it right there. I think that indoor training is really the key, whether you use something like Zwift or you use a different product like Rouvy. At the end of the day, when we think about success, it's doing the work that's going to make you ready to make the decisions, which you already know, but you still have to make the decision to be successful. Um, that sounds really challenging, but to be honest, it's not. The goal here is to make sure that when you're getting ready, that you're doing the small incremental things that help you be successful. And why you want to climb a mountain or you want to be outside with that fresh air. Our goal here is to really lock ourselves in a box and be really focused on that. And you can do that very well on a trainer relatively to then being outside and dealing with other issues like daylight savings or traffic or school buses and things like that. All right. So volume of fall peaking. Hopefully you see it here. You can peak from a volume perspective. You can peak for a race perspective, which we just talked about. Either way, we want to be very clear about what our goal is for the next block of training time, whether it's 4 weeks or 6 weeks or 8 weeks, and then adjust accordingly to make sure that you do stay on track. It's easy to fall off the bandwagon when there's a variety of challenges that you'll encounter along the way. And when we get into that space of being reactionary, we really end up losing out as athletes overall because we're just not having the time to absorb the work. We're constantly changing based off of early input. So we never really get settled. And the big difference between people who are active and fit, but not active, fit, and healthy is that sleep quota is really listening to your body, is making sure that sleep is a priority. All right. So hopefully you enjoyed this conversation with me, Coach Patrick from Endurance Nation. Again, if you want to check us out, head over to endurancenation.us. You can also go to endurancenation.us/waitlist to sign up for your your chance to get into Endurance Nation starting October 31st with our out-season program. Thanks, folks. Have a great week.